Okay, do you need to limber up or are you ready to go?
I've done my exercises, I'm ready.
Hello there and welcome to a historic moment. It's episode 10 of the Tyre Kickers. Yes, we're in double figures and still talking nonsense about classic cars. My name is Matt.
And I'm Max. Coming up, see it, want it. It might have some sand in the engine, but we've got the hots for the car that gets hotter than most. The Triumph Stag.
Also on this episode, the return of Crush It or Caress It. And this time it's the 80s show pony that is the MG Metro. Should we stick it on a plinth or just bury it in a pit?
So pop open some pomaine, warm up some sausage rolls, and fire off some party poppers as we celebrate episode 10 of the Tyre Kickers.
So yes, we've done it. 10 episodes and we're still going strong. 4 months ago, this podcast was merely a car designer's dream. But after some banging, some knocking, and a bit of bodging on the production line, we're here glistening in the sun like a shiny Morris Marina in 70s Harvest Gold with brown vinyl seats. Yuck. But thankfully, unlike the 70s, we've got all of this done without any power cuts or walkouts. Although Max has threatened to down tools on more than one occasion.
Well, you know why? Because you get to work with me, which is a dream. However, I have to work with you. So it's a different matter, isn't it? But that aside, in the last 9 episodes, we've hopefully given you a taste of what we're about. Mainly a lot of chat about the cars we want, we've had, we've got, and the ones we can't fix. Plus that all-important tyre kicking in the classifieds for the cars that look way too cheap or just make us go, oh, hello.
And you know what? It's thanks to you that we've got here, to be honest, because your interactions, your comments, feedback, and also your general involvement in the show has really given it some life. So thank you very much for that. We wanted to do a podcast that felt more like a radio show, you know, one where we talk to you, not just ourselves, mainly because Max does get a bit boring. We also wanted to try and be opinionated about stuff, get your opinions on it, and hopefully also make you smile in the process. So it's been a crazy plan, but it looks like, Max, it may just be working.
Emphasis on the word may. So yes, as we've mentioned, lots of stuff happening on our socials since we last spoke. New followers, lots of new listeners, and lots of great car chat online. So let's get into it and give you some honourable mentions.
Yes, first up, Dan TT180 on Instagram said about episode 9 being released. Perfect, he said. I've been waiting for this all week. Being a watchmaker, it's just one of a few podcasts I can actually listen to while still concentrating. Good to hear that somebody's concentrating while this is happening. It's not entirely sure that we are during it.
Yeah, better job than us. Yeah, here's another great comment. Sam, who goes by the handle Southern Cars UK, got in touch to say, I appreciate this is slightly random, but just wanted to tell you that my kids are now late for school because I was listening to your podcast and lost track of time. She goes on to say, I've just started listening and it's completely brilliant. Well, glad to hear you're enjoying it. Far more important than what the kids will learn at school.
My son always says school's very, very boring, so hopefully they've not missed too much. But hold on, Max, actually, just before we let the compliments go to our heads, we have had this one come in. 350 Monroe on Insta said, I've just listened to the first one. I'm quite impressed. Now,
Quite.
Are we reading that as quite as in, like, not really that impressed, or I'm quite impressed? It's a little bit damning with faint praise, I think.
If it's a British quite, that's quite good. If it's not British, he thinks we're rubbish.
It's crap.
Steve, aka Classic Car Addiction on Insta, picks up on our Porsche chat and says he bought his 1987 930 Turbo during lockdown from an online auction, having not seen the car. Remember when we thought this is a good idea? And to add to the risk, it had been dry stored for 15 years.
Ouch.
He says, looking back, only an idiot would do that. Well, I won't say you're an idiot. They were strange times.
We all went a bit mad. The dealers, though, loved it. You know, when would you have, before that point, when would you have said, oh, do you know what? I sell classic cars. What I do is people just buy them online and I just put them on a trailer and I drop them off. They were pushing those cars off the back of the trailer and wheel spinning off. Good luck with that. Is it your
It was a
first classic?
dream time.
Good luck.
It was a great time for them, wasn't it? And suddenly the prices were going up and they were unloading all the stock and nobody could have an inspection. Nobody could look at it. God, no wonder we ended up with some odd cars. He's also stuck a Tyre Kickers sticker on his 911 and sent us a snap, which looks really nice, looking good.
Nice. Speed Brokers on Insta referred to our chat about the falling values of top-tier classics in the last episode. He agrees that it is a buyer's market right now. His advice to you, go grab a bargain in your spec because he says in a few years you will miss the chance.
Meanwhile, it's good day to new listener Ben in Oz, who runs a very nice 1954 Armstrong Siddeley Sapphire. Ben says he's binged all 8 episodes after finding us and sent us some compliments. He said he's loving the podcast and he's been waiting for this tone of podcast for a while. Oh, thank you, Ben.
Also, Jean-Luc from Maple House Classics got in touch to say he was also a new listener. He says he's been thoroughly enjoying the podcast and also saying that it's his ideal balance of car info and humour. Plus, we seem to have a similar taste in cars. I don't think he's talking about your love of dreary 70s British family cars, though, Max. Maybe the more exotic stuff we've talked about, like, I don't know, the Allegro Vanden Plas, maybe.
Oh, fancy. Another new listener, Mark Dempsey, got in touch to say he's just listened to 5 episodes after seeing our logo with the 911 on. He's a Porsche fan. He's got a G50 911 as well as a really nice Golf GTI. Welcome along. Always plenty of Porsche chat, despite what Matt wants to do.
Yeah, don't we know it? We also got a first review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much, Armchair Sessions, who wrote a great review. He says the show feels relatable, unforced, and like a couple of friends whispering in his ears while he goes about his chores. He also says he likes the Carfax in the show. That's Max's department. He says either the hosts are great at blagging or maybe they've done a reasonable amount of research.
Well, one of us has done some research. One of us just wings it completely. And it's up to you to work out which one is which.
Yeah, guess who it is, because it is a mixture of the two. Thank you for the review, though, Armchair Sessions. And could we be cheeky and ask you for a review? If you're enjoying this, give us 5 stars on the platform that you're listening to. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are. If you could just take sort of 30 seconds or a minute just to write a review and give it 5 stars, that would be amazing because it helps us get up in the algorithms and helps other people see it and enjoy it as well. While we're also talking Insta as well, welcome to all the new followers we've recently got on Instagram. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, a special welcome. We're nearly at about 800 followers. Please, can you help us get to 1,000? I know this sounds like a begging bowl, but if you can annoy your classic car loving or owning friends and get them to follow us on Instagram, please, we will share a bottle of Babycham with you and maybe some scampi fries if we can get to 1,000. We're going retro with that.
Chicken in a basket. And also there was some great reaction to some cars I'd taken photographs of in Chelsea last weekend, actually. I posted on Instagram. Thank you for those. I might go and perhaps some more. I did notice, actually, I took a couple of pictures of people in the cars and then I thought, I wonder if they really like this or not, and then run off. And also, lots of you are asking for stickers. If you do want a sticker, check out the posts on Instagram about those. And a reminder of our Instagram, it's at the Tyre Kickers UK. And on Facebook, just search for the Tyre Kickers, 3 separate words.
So while all that's been happening online, we've also been doing some stuff in the real world with our cars. Max, what have you been doing with your old Porsche 912?
Well, it's still at the trimmers. You know, he was turning the original 1966 Porsche back into a 1966 because it was full of parts and bits from cars of other eras, from 68 Porsches, from 71 Porsches. So he's still working away on that. In the meantime, the internet makes work for idle hands. So I've been doing more research on Mercedes SLs. I had an R129 Mercedes SL book last time. This time I've ordered a new book, a Mercedes R107 SL book. You can see the amount of variety here. This is my fantasy SL journey. Now, this started with the R129. We talked about that a few episodes ago. It was cheap. It was £10,000. I thought, great, I can do a cheap SL. That went wrong because they all went wrong. Then I was off to pagodas. I thought if I sell the house and get into lots of debt, I can buy a pagoda. Then I went across to the modern R230s, and then I thought, I'm not quite sure about that. Then I've gone back now to the classic Bobby Ewing R107s. But here's an etiquette problem. A friend of mine, I've been talking about this for months now, a friend of mine has just gone out and bought one. So he's beaten me to it. So I can't now he's bought a 300 SL, a 1988 white 300 SL.
Well, after
I've been
hearing
talking about it.
Yeah,
I've been
what?
doing the research. He's bought the car.
Now, have you been talking it up though, and saying, "I'm thinking about buying one of these. I think they're really good. If I was going to buy another classic car, this is what I'd buy."
Exactly. And he's gone and done it. And I'm left high and dry without one. So do I buy one now because I look like a copycat, even though I've done all the work? I don't know.
In terms of a moving target, you're quite slow moving, aren't you? Because you take about 2 years to decide you want something, and by then you've taught yourself out of it. So in the meantime, it's not that difficult for somebody to sneak in and buy the car that you've raved about and you've done all the research on. Have you had a go in that 300 SL yet, or have you seen it in the flesh?
No, I mean, I've seen a few and I've driven a couple in the past. And to be honest, in the past, I was slightly disappointed. But I think I wanted a sports car and they're not a sports car. So I think if I go to it with a different frame of mind, it'll be more impressive because I want to cruise in. I want a kind of Beverly Hills cruiser. So I'm going to have a look at a couple. But in the meantime, though, while going through the SL market, and annoyingly, you told me about this and you were championing these for a while, the 2001 to 2011 R230s. Now, there was one that popped up in the Iconic Auctioneers a few weeks ago. You were saying when they were really cheap, now they look like other people have caught onto them. On your screen now is the 2004 Mercedes-Benz SL55 AMG F1 Performance Pack R129. So this is a top-of-the-range 493 brake horsepower. It's the 5.5 litre SL. It's got the £8,500 F1 Performance Pack, and it looks quite nice, doesn't it? And it sold for £39,000. Now, you and I were talking about these when they were 2 or 3 grand.
I hate to say it, but you snooze, you lose.
Yeah.
You've taken so long. I feel like I've been on this journey with you, and it's a bit more like an odyssey, I would say, than a journey of you looking for a soft on Mercedes. But hold on, these cars, the 230s, are yesterday's news in your world. You're now back on the 107s again. So is that what you're going to go for this time, or are we going one round once again?
Well, I think we're on the merry-go-round, aren't we? Because I was on the R107s, but then once my friends bought one, I thought, well, maybe I should beat the race and go to the R230. But then the headlights, I don't really like that peanut headlight shape. I think the electrics are a bit prissy. They go wrong. It's got the ABC suspension. So probably I'm now going back to the R129, which, what do you think about those?
No, I don't. You know my opinions on those. I don't really like them. Having test driven them, they're just 290s for me. I think they're neither fish nor fowl. Don't look classic to me. They look coloured bumpers and just a lot of black plastic. And then they're not the sort of 230s, which are great weekend car that feels a bit more modern, but is dated really nicely with nice lines. I would go 107, to be honest. The 107, if you park a 129 in a car park, people are sort of just going to walk past it, I think. If you park the 230 in a car park, people are going to think that's a fairly modern car. Bear in mind, most people don't. It doesn't matter what most people think, but I'm just saying in terms of like your reaction to it. In most people's eyes, they don't really see the difference in Mercedes over the last 20 years. They can't tell the difference. I think the thing about the 107s is interesting is it just still looks great in the flesh. It looks great. The chrome bumpers, the design, that solid slab of slabby metal, the headlights even look good in the flesh. It just looks like a classic car. And, it was designed in the late 60s, wasn't it? Ran out all through the 70s and the 80s, and it didn't really change that much. The later ones are less rusty, are they, than the early ones, perhaps?
I think after 1986, they were galvanized. So it's the kind of 86 to 89 ones, which I'm kind of after, or the very early ones.
What's your use case for this? Now, you're going to go and get down the nail bar, get your hair done?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Down the pub. No, seriously, that's the way to think about it, I think. This is how to decide what you're going to do with it. You've got this vision of taking it to the south of France. If that's what you need, I think you need something with longer legs, and I would go more modern. I would go for something in the 2000s. If you just want to use it around the country lanes, I'd go and maybe do a few longer runs. I'd go 107, a good 107, and one that's been used and loved. It doesn't necessarily need to be restored and amazing. I just think it needs to have not sat around a lot. My friend with a 107 recently drove it down to southern Spain. So what a nutter.
What year is his? What year is that?
70s. That's the late 70s one, 76. He uses that for a lot. He would run down to the coast in that without thinking about it. Whereas me in my 60s car, I'm thinking, is it more than 45 minutes? Do I want to see a chiropractor?
Seconds. What have you been up to anyway? You've got that out in the sunshine, have you?
Yeah, the sun's been shining a bit, so I managed to get to some meets, and it's always fortuitous when two meets happen sort of on the same morning in roughly the same sort of neck of the woods. So that was good. A couple of meets, I put them on Instagram. First was a very nice pub in the Hampshire countryside. Saw a nice 30s Lagonda replica, cute little Triumph TR2, TR3, I think it was. Some nice E-types, a couple of tasty silver shadows, Max. I know you've got a thing about
nice,
silver shadows.
Yeah.
Poked my head in one of them. One of that particular ones, it was a Series 2, and the guy picked up for a very tidy price. I think you would have liked that. What else was there? Frog Eye, nice couple of American cars, a Thunderbird 70s Stingray. And then I went on to Bill Rule's classic cars near Alsford for their monthly meet, which is really recommended. And wow, so many nice cars, probably about 100 in their car park. They're an Austin Healey specialist, so naturally there's lots of really top-notch Healeys always on show. A couple of jaw-dropping Jags you'd have liked, an XK150 that Max was absolutely beautiful.
Oh, nice.
It was so beautifully trimmed, red interior. You could smell it from 10 feet away.
That's the thing about the XKs. You can smell the oil and the leather before you see them, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. There was also a nice 105 coupe. What else? Another Jag, a 120 that they look sort of fresh from a wind tunnel, those cars, don't they? So sleek
they're so
looking.
good. But then have you ever tried to get in one?
Well, yeah, and also did think really practically, once there's a little bit of rain, you're a bit stuffed, aren't you? So,
Yeah.
but the car that got me, actually, you might like this, a Carman Beetle. Oh. I could just imagine bombing around in that in the summer and using it from everything from supermarket runs, trips to the beach. It was one of those cars that as soon as I saw it, I thought, that'll be fun.
Yeah, but as soon as you drive it, I've got two words for you: scuttle and shake. They are just so wobbly. They're amazing.
Yeah, and the rust as well. So it's a great meet. Bill Rules is down in Alsford. Look him up on Instagram. Thank you for the bacon roll and the coffee as well. All the pictures are on our Instagram, by the way, if you want to have a look at those, at the Tyre Kickers UK. And also hello to a listener, Ben, in his green MGB, who we saw on the way there and he waved. And then we saw him coming back and he waved. We meanwhile missed it. We'd gone somewhere else and got there. So he gave us a wave. Thank you for the wave and the comments on Instagram as well. Yeah, that was good. I've just got one last thing I was going to say to you about, and this is a bit of regret. I did a meet locally, and the meet was good, but there was, when the weather's okay, but there was this really big, nasty rain cloud threatening all evening, and it was just there and we were staring at it. So it stayed dry most of the meet, but as we thought about leaving, it started spitting, and then it did start raining. So I'll have confession, I'm really lazy about putting my roof up on my car because it's a 60s car and it just takes 5-10 minutes of faffing about. I'm too lazy, basically. Too much faff. And I thought, you know what? I'm only 5-10 minutes from home. I'll risk it. I'll risk it in the rain. I thought it's going to stop in a minute. It didn't stop. It got worse. And I got soaked. And I'm really prissy about keeping my car dry as well. As soon as the rain threatens, I normally put it in the garage. But I got absolutely drenched. I remember the windscreen wipers still don't work. I haven't fixed those. So so there's me in my glasses with the windscreen wipers on, trying to wipe the thing away. Lesson learned: next time the rain threatens to steal the show, I'm raising the roof.
Or get soaked and call an election. There we are. Coming up, the MG Metro's fate is hanging in the balance as it goes up for our Crush It or Caress It challenge. But first, it's a tale of lust. It's time for See It, Want It.
Yes, and this time it's the car that's been catnip to me for a long time. The 70s cruiser that I've always wanted, but have always been too scared to own. The car that I once sat in as a child and went, wow, but 40-something years later, I've always taught myself out of. It is, of course, the Triumph Stag.
Now, you laugh at me about the Mercedes SL, but why are we back at the Stag again? Last time we spoke about Stags, you slagged off the interiors, so I thought you'd gone off them.
Well, a simple reason. I saw one, or rather I heard it pull up, and it set me off again. Because despite all the things we know about that welded together V8 with the free sand left in the bottom of it from when it was cast, there is no getting away from it for me. For me, it is one of the best sounding classics out there. That V8 burble, there's nothing like it. Then there's that sort of 70s Medallion Man styling, those fat tyres, the camtail design, the two big sticky out exhausts. Oh my God, I've got the hots for it again. Although as we all know, this is the car that's got the hots for itself because it usually gets hot and overheats. So talk me out of it, Max, will you?
Easy. Let's take the Mercedes SL. Now, that car was designed as a 1970s car in America, and it didn't need that big rollover hoop, did it? But the Stag did for some reason. Then again, they got the engines wrong, and they just constantly overheated, and they were really doing that for 10 years. There was no real cure as they went into the Mark II. The dealers didn't understand them. I think in America, Time magazine said it was one of the worst cars ever because it kept on overheating in the States when they added the auto gearbox and the aircon. And it just became one of those banger cars in the 1980s that nobody would touch. So if you're looking at them now, they probably may have had a bit of work done on them, but I still think fundamentally they weren't very good designs.
Yeah, well, they weren't. The design itself was good, but the actual engineering
it
was
overheated.
poor.
It was rubbish.
Well, yes, yeah, no, but I'm talking about the design of the body work.
Okay.
That Michelotti
Well,
design.
apart from the T-top.
Well, yeah, apart from the T-top and the rubbish interior, but actually, if you stand about 10 feet back,
job done. I
looks
talked
all right.
you out of it.
But if you talk to someone who owns a Stag, they just go, "Oh, overheating. It's sorted now. It was bad when it came out, and now everybody knows what to do about it." And a lot of people point to their original engines and say it's the original engine. It's never overheated, so it's not as though they all kind of conked out and cleared off. But there's something about them. This is a head and a heart thing. And my head has always said, "Don't buy a Triumph Stag." And when I've gone near buying one, people have said to me, "Do you like working with spanners?" And I said, "Not particularly." They said, "Don't get a Triumph Stag." But then my heart has always, there's something about a Stag, and it's how it sounds and how it looks. And there's something, I just sort of have this vision of driving an auto Stag and just cruising about in it. And I feel it's like dancing with the devil a little bit. Maybe I should get one. Just finally scratch that itch.
Okay, well, here's one which I've dug up from the internet as a suggestion. It's a 1976, so that's a Mark II Stag. It's pimento red. It's obviously the V8. It's got refurbished alloy wheels. It's got a Weber carb conversion. It's got the manual gearbox, though, because you want automatic for some strange reason, don't you? I think you should have the manual, to be honest, because they're much better drive. What do you think about that? I mean, it's a nice colour. The interior is the interior. It's a Stag. So would you buy that?
No, because it's a manual. But I think it's it looks good. I do like the pimento reds. The carmine red's nicer as well, I think, the darker one. The interior looks all right, although don't get me started on the interiors. It's just sort of cardboard interiors. But red Stag, black hood is good. I think my ultimate Stag would be a dark blue one and an auto. Borg Warner, isn't it? Is it 3 speeds?
Yeah, but it's a bit slushy though. It's not a very exciting
I love
drive.
a slushy. You're always talking about auto gearboxes being slushy. I love a slushy gearbox. It's off the era, isn't
that
it?
Head nod as you get that change and the delay, and it's so slow.
Yeah, but
it takes all the fun out of it.
I've got an auto gearbox in my daily car, and it's as smooth as silk.
Yeah, but that's a modern though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, but that's so it's nice to have the alternate on that, and it's nice when you put it in drive. It lurches. Hopefully not into your garage door, but no, I think if that was an auto, I think you'd have me at pimento red. So yeah, I like that, and the original engine as well. I mean, I know it should have had the Rover V8, shouldn't it? And it would have done all right, I think, probably. But the old Sandy slant 4 or whatever it's called, welded together, that does sound good, even though it was bad.
So, okay, here's another one I've found for you. Now, this is a really nice one. Again, it's a manual because I hadn't heard what you said about automatics and just disregarded it. So I found another manual. This is with this Triumph Stag shop, which has got some really nice ones in it, to be honest. What about this? It's nice and blue. Again, what year is this? It is it doesn't say, does it?
Sorry, it just sounds all like random words you're saying because I'm looking at these pictures now.
We've lost you. We've lost Matt. Man down.
Were you saying something interesting?
No, don't worry.
This is nice. This looks great, and it does look restored. And this is probably the sort of thing I want. The values are all over the place with Stags, aren't they? I mean, when I've looked at them, the last time I looked at them, it was sort of a yo-yo. You just sort of pick a car and think, well, that doesn't look great. You think, how much? And then you look at another one, you think, that looks great. You think, it's not too bad. And then you see one for 40 grand, and you think, well, what? So I don't get that. This one looks nice. A classic car is good when they start showing you pictures of the underneath. Because,
Yeah, it's
most,
very clean underneath.
Yeah,
that looks like a full restoration, doesn't it? That looks
does.
spotless.
Can I enter a confessional with you? Could you pop your outfit on? Oh, you've already got it on.
That's the nun's outfit.
I've never driven one.
What? You've never driven one?
No.
Well, that's probably why you like it, because as soon as you drive one, it'll put you off. What are you talking about? You've never driven one? Have you not been for a test drive on one?
No, because every single time I've looked at them about 3 times, and every single time I've literally just gone, yeah, actually, don't worry. I've been in Stags. I've never driven one. In fact, the last one that I went to look at about 3 years ago, I didn't even bother with a test drive. I just thought, this is such a heap of junk. I don't want to even give it a go.
I remember you showing me that one, and it had the chrome sill covers on a Mark 1, and it shouldn't have had them, but they used to put those on purely to hide the rot.
Do you think I need to drive one to put myself off this?
I think you should drive. I think you should drive a manual, because a manual Stag is a much nicer car than an auto, because the autos are so slushy. It's so slow to wait for the change.
That's like,
if you drove a manual, you'd like it.
That's like arguing for a manual SL, a 107, isn't it? It's not that sort of car, is it? It's just a wafter, isn't it? It's a slushy, wafty. It's not. I don't redline a Stag. I just want to hear the burble.
Yeah, well, you've got to go and drive one. I mean, you've got to have that test drive, because I think it might put you off, to be honest. I think that drive is not as good as it looks, if you see what I mean. And I think once you do that, you think, it's not quite as good. Okay,
well, any dealers listening who've got a Stag, buy your beds, because we're coming to see you. So, crush it. No, let's not crush it.
Wrong one.
So see it, want it. I think I still want it. Maybe I need to see it. That might put me off.
Now, we welcome back Crush or Caress. It's the feature where we play Classic Car God. Do we send a model to a heated garage with a loving owner, or drive it flat out to a local scrappy and turn it into beer cans?
Yes, and this time on Crush or Caress, it's the red seat-belted, tarted up runaround that is the MG Metro.
The new MG Metro. 0 to 60 in 10.9 seconds. At 4799. Welcome to the club.
It's the car that was sold to us as a hot hatch with 80s body kit and free graphics down the side. At the time, many of us gave them the thumbs up, but in hindsight, was the MG Metro actually giving a 4-wheeled middle finger to the engineers who gave us the TF, the MGA, and the MGB?
Yes, the 80s was a funny time, wasn't it, Max? We were all about modernity back then, and I suppose the MG Metro did fit that, but has it dated well? I mean, think about what was around at the time as well. Shell suits, they've not dated well. Has the MG Metro followed suit? Well, let's get into the classifieds and have a look at some and argue the toss on it. Exhibit 1, what do you make of this?
1988 MG Metro, 47,000 miles, 1300cc, well, 1275. It's in white. It's got the grey interior. Now, I think these MG Metros are starting to turn into that hot hatch that we kind of appreciate now. Lots of the market is after these 1980s hot hatches. I think the MG Metro is about there. It's going to catch up. It was nice to drive. The engine was ancient. It was that 1275 A series, but it was peppy. It drove along. It had space. It did handle really well. I think the MG Metro is kind of been overlooked, and it's time now to reappreciate it. If you have a look at these pictures, I mean, it's got red seatbelts. What more do you want?
You say hot hatch, I say botched hatch. And my mate Neil had one of these, and this one in white, it was pretty much the spit of the one he had. Now, at the time, a bit like Level 42, we thought it was cool. But, as time moves on, just look, it's just a bit bland, isn't it? In modern parlance, it's like somebody with a woman with duck lips. It's got a body kit shoved on an average looking car, isn't it? And very 80s. Look at that interior. It's like it's had its hair highlighted. It's a sort of bland interior where they've just put red everywhere and highlights of reds. They put red carpet, red piping. Had those red seatbelts, which, granted, at the time they did feel quite cool. But actually, if you strip all that red away, it's just a bland old Metro, isn't it?
You could say the same for the Peugeot 205 and the Golf, and also, again, the bog standard Fiesta 1.1. They were all pretty bland cars, but they were tarted up, and they are now, those three I've just mentioned, are classics. That's why I think the MG Metro will follow. I wouldn't personally have it in white, but I think in some of the, even a silver, I think even a red, I think they're quite cool cars.
So, okay, yeah, but the 205 was, a renowned good driving car, the 205 GTI, wasn't it? Would you get excited about jumping behind the wheel of an MG Metro now?
Well, they did drive nicely. I mean, they had really good suspension. And if you accept that engine is what it is, they couldn't afford to put a better engine in it, so they used that one. It's pretty good. It sounds nice, that engine. It's dead simple to work on because it dates from the 1800s. I think the MG Metro is one of those cars that when you drove it again, you'd think, actually, this was really good, because in period, it was a good car. And also, if you have a look at this other one we've got on the screen, it's a silver 1984. I think this looks a bit nicer.
Yeah, Exhibit 2 this is, and this is. I'm not jumping behind the wheel of that first one, and I'm not jumping behind the wheel of this silver. This looks just rubbish, I'm afraid. This just, I don't know, just looks boring. Looks like a shopping car with some red bits on it.
Yeah, but it's an MG. It's a proper MG. It's a proper, genuine, pucker, original MG. There's no badge engineering here whatsoever.
This was the downward spiral of sticking an MG badge on everything. I mean, look at where it is now. It's not bears no relation. And you said in the intro to this, did it give the middle finger to the people who came up with the MGA and the MGB? Yeah,
but you've got to admit, by the time the MGB finished in 1980, it was really of a different era. It was a 60s car that was still being sold in 1979, 1980. It was completely outclassed and outdated. And what people were after in the 1980s were hot hatches. And this is what the MG Metro was. It was a hot hatch. It was the BL hot hatch. And actually, I really liked them. And also, you've got to remember, it's the hot hatch that spawned the MG Metro 6R4. Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, they are quite collectible now. It still doesn't do it for me. And we've got Exhibit 3. This is a 6R4 here, isn't it? So this has just got more body kit on it. It's got a better engine, actually, isn't it? Oh, my God, look at that thing.
I mean, it's a genuine 6R4. It bears no resemblance to the Metro because it's got its engine in the back, for starters.
It's a different
and it's
car.
A completely different engine. So it's a completely different car in the Metro body kit. But, everybody was doing it in Group B rallying at the time. And that 6R4 was a corker until, obviously, they can Group B rallying. So I think the Metro did have a kind of cool about it, as you can see with a halo model of the 6R4. And if you go back to that silver one, because that's an early one, I think that's quite a cool looking car. If you rocked up at that now in a car show, you would get a lot of interest.
Yeah, well, the 80s marketing and designers got together and in a dark room and had this MG Metro baby, and then it obviously spawned some relatives as well. There was that Maestro, wasn't there? And also all the MG Montego as well. Oh, but they're awful.
You laugh at these cars. Okay, let's have a laugh at the Maestro, because the original MG Maestro wasn't very good. It was a 1.6. I think when they upgraded it in 84 with a 2-litre engine, it became the EFI. That was a proper Golf GTI rival. That really performed really well. By 1983, the Maestro was Britain's biggest selling car. So they did get bits of it right, and sticking the MG badge on it worked. The MG Montego, for example, that became the fastest ever MG with a turbo bolted on it. So that MG badge engineering did work, and it delivered what people want in the 80s. They wanted saloon cars with a bit of speed.
There was one cool thing that came out of the whole thing, wasn't there? The talking dashboard.
Have the coolant level topped up? The fuel level is low. The lights are still on.
We did think that was cool back in the day, didn't we?
When you used to go over speed humps, that would sometimes trigger warnings that weren't applicable to it. It was triggered by vibrations. I think the talking dash was cool. It didn't last very long because it was rubbish. But the cars themselves did get better. I think by the end of it, the MG Montego Turbo was a really fast car. It was quicker than an XR 4x4. It was quicker than the Cavalier SRI. It was cheaper than an XR 4x4, actually. But I don't think those MG cars can be written off just because it was badge engineering. They were good cars at the end.
Nah. I think like perms, shell suits, white socks, the MG Metro was a bit of a styling shocker. It was just a badged up, blinged up, body kitted car with a slightly tarted up engine. And for me, it's not dated well. Looking back, it's just a bit naff. Ultimately, to me, it was just a Metro. I thought you'd argue this way, though. So I went and sought a primary source opinion. I tapped up my old schoolmate Neil that I referred to, who had one of these back in the day. Now, he loved it at the time, but I wanted to see if that novelty had worn off. I said to him, we were doing a crush and caress. What do you think, crush or caress? He said, crush, I'm afraid. Too much rust over the wheel arches. And he said his MG didn't have enough power to get uphill on the M40 to Birmingham. He said the turbo was slightly better and the Knight Rider boost bars were fun. What were they?
I don't know, actually. God, do they have a boost bar on the dash?
Must have had some sort of dodgy aftermarket thing going on. He said he saw a white one recently, and it triggered nostalgia. So he went out and had a good look at it. It reminded him of how basic and poorly made they were. That was a shocker. And I never once thought, he said, I'd love to drive that again. Good luck. I'm going to enjoy watching it get crushed. So that's 2 of us against 1. Let's start the crusher up.
Well, I mean, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the Maestro. You can crush a Maestro, maybe even crush a Metro, but I want to keep the MG Montego Turbo.
Okay. Yeah, you're on. If you think we're talking rubbish and you want to argue the toss for the MG Metro, drop us a line on our socials and let us know why we're talking complete nonsense or why you agree that it should go in the crusher. You know it's the right answer. Get in touch. We're on Instagram at the Tyre Kickers UK and on Facebook as well, the Tyre Kickers, 3 separate words. So we're nearly done on episode 10, but before we go, let's talk some auctions. The smell of oil and leather is in the air, and it is prime classic car buying season. There's virtually an auction every weekend now, which is brilliant. So let's look at what's crossing the block. It's our perfect sort of thing. Oh, God, you're not taking us back to SLs again, are you, Max?
Just very briefly, back to SLs. Let's have a look at this early R107. Now, I really love the early models. This was unsold from iconic auctioneers at Sywell on May the 18th. This is so early. I think they only started producing them in 71. This is a 72. It's got wind-up windows. Look at that. That's cool.
Nice.
Black interior. I really like these early models. They're so clean. It's got the steel hubcaps. It's got nothing on the body that didn't need to be there. The only problem about this one is if you read in the fine print, and it is very fine and small print, that it was in storage for 22 years. So I think in 22 years, a few things will have gone hard, will have gone brittle, will have gone off. So I think that's quite a brave car. But it's
You're talking about yourself or the car?
Hey, that's such a good-looking car. I think that might be worth a punt. It says it's only got 30,000 miles on it.
I think, what's the estimate on that? Does it say?
No, because it didn't sell, so I don't know what. Oh yeah, here it is. The buy it now price is 28,000, so a bit high.
That's way too high for a 70s one. Way
Particularly
too high.
one that's been standing for 22 years, but they are rare being that early, and that's got the original kind of black plastic interior, so it's a nice car.
I would say, like for 18, that's a bit strong. I mean, if that was 12, 13, I would take the risk of replacing everything, and I'd recommission it, and replace all the rubbers and all the joints and everything, or anything perishable in the engine would replace, and then you potentially got a good car. It's the 350. It does. They are a bit boat-like, but you've got that V8 in there. You've got, is it auto? Because it would be quite slushy if it is.
Yeah, it's auto, yeah.
That might put you off auto, but it's a bit of class. It's got, oh my God, I'm going to sound like you. It's got headrests in it, which weren't standard back in 1972. And also, what's quite cute, it's only got the one door mirror because the other one was an optional extra, even on a Mercedes that cost eye-watering amount of money. It was something ridiculous back in the early 70s. It was more than an E-Type, wasn't it?
Wind-up windows and one door mirror. That original owner was really mean.
Yeah, but the car was so expensive. I just think you wouldn't have any money left. That's a bit of class. I think probably too classy for you, but it's worth a look.
I think probably too expensive when you started to recommission that. Now, what have you got?
Well, it's camper van season, isn't it? Everybody starts seeing the sun coming out, and then they start thinking about camper vans as well as garden furniture. What about this? We're staying in the 70s, same year, 72. A Type 2, a VW camper in blue, light blue. Enduring appeal on these, aren't they? And it looks like it's got a new engine in it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. It's a right-hand drive, a genuine UK right-hand drive, which is quite rare. It's the early bay window one. Had a full resto in 2014. It's pastel blue over white with a pop top and roof rack. Fresh 1776 engine in May 2021. That's good because they were so slow they wouldn't get up a hill in the original 1.6. I think they're really good. That is the taste of the 1970s. I think what you should do is buy it, tell your kids you're going on a 70s holiday, take away all their devices, trap them in it and see how long they last.
Good God, there'd be a mutiny. It's like, where's the Wi-Fi? What's the Wi-Fi password?
No Wi-Fi.
I mean, these are great.
Nothing.
These are great designs, mainly because you can make a cup of tea for the AA man when you break down on the motorway. But
And for the fire brigade, because they used to have a habit of burning. All the old oil in the engine bay would catch fire if you got hot.
You know, it's summer when you see a VW camper on the hard shoulder, don't you? But
it's so cute, isn't it?
It is, and also that new engine. I think you've got a fighting chance of actually getting to Devon, haven't you? In it, so
yeah.
But that's really cute. All right.
Guide price is 14 to 18,000 on that. And they used to be 30,000.
Yeah, it did.
They've come down in price a bit, really. I think that's really nice.
Okay. Well, that's definitely worth a look. You got one more for us?
Yes, at the same CCA auction at Tatton Park on June the 1st, here's one for you. Now, you're always looking for an old man's Mercedes saloon. Could this be the one? It's a W123 1983 Mercedes-Benz 200. This is the very lowest rung on the spec. This is the Berlin taxi spec. But less to go wrong. And it's automatic for you, so you don't have to change gear. It's in that lovely Mercedes red, fantastic condition. It's got the tin top hubcaps as well. It's base Mercedes, but I think all the cooler for it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice colour, and its description chimes with me because it sounds like me. Unadorned, unmolested, and proudly standard. Let's shut you up.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of something that was clean. You said unmolested, and it just triggered. Anyway, that's really good. I think that's a good car there.
The 123s, I'm sort of a bit on the fence with them because whenever I see them abroad, I really like them, but I just think they're a bit plain in the UK. Although this one has got the old catnip for me, which is the coloured hubcaps. I do like those. 10 to 12 could be worth a punt, couldn't it?
Yeah. Also, it's a really straight one. All the panels are straight. The engine bay's clean. The interior's nice and clean. It hasn't got the saggy seats.
Yeah, I like that. We'll keep an eye on those. Plenty of auction stuff coming up. If you see anything on any of the auctions that you think we should have a look at and talk about, by all means, alert us to it. Tag us in on Instagram or send us a DM with what you've seen. We're always interested in kicking through the auction listings and kicking a few tires. So, if you've spotted anything, let us know.
So that's all for episode 10. Please get in touch if you want to talk stags, badge engineered MGs, or just want to agree with me that Matt is always wrong.
We are on Instagram at the Tyre Kickers UK, and on Facebook, just search for the Tyre Kickers. 3 separate words. And another appeal, please, just to rate us on your podcast platform that you're listening to us right now on. Please leave us a review and 600 stars. And we will thank you forever because it all just helps us get seen and gets other people enjoying this as well and builds the community of the Tyre Kickers as well. So thank you very much in advance.
Now in the next episode, it's car accessories. What's the worst waste of money you've bought to make your car look better?
Also, should you pay to display? The car season is just getting going, but some organisers, cheeky organisers, are asking you for a fee to bring your car into the show. My question is, why can't we show it off for free? We'll be talking about that in the next episode.
So if you've enjoyed this, then tell 1 million of your closest friends. They need to know we're here talking rubbish on a regular basis, so please pass us on, and see you next time.
Bye for now.
So yes, as we've mentioned, lots of stuff happening on our socials since we last spoke. New followers, lots of new listeners, and lots of great cat chat.
Cat chat? You wish.
That's my other podcast.